and can talk to people will be definitely like a skill set of their own. And then there might be different kind of property managers that are doers. But any changes that we've made to our business aren't pandemic changes. These are changes that will be there forever moving forward.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can I just ask you then, you mentioned there about the team having their conversations, just ad hoc. Has that been driven by you, or is that something that they just started to do?
Look, that was probably driven by myself. But again, it's also you're forced into the situation that people are calling and asking for it. But it was probably getting their heads and their mindsets right of going, don't be upset by people calling for advice, but actually take this as a true and real opportunity that you can impact someone's day really quite quickly by sitting down, being empathetic, listening to them, and really advising on the best course forward. And 15 minutes of your time to give them some understanding of what's happening is very blessed for us and for them, because they don't know who to turn to. They don't know who to talk to. They've got different messages from the media. They've got different messages from their friends and family. And really not many people actually have understood what they can and what their options are.
Yeah, indeed. You did mention about people coming to you to get advice. Let's talk about tenants firstly. What are the things that they're telling you that they're most concerned about, and how are you helping them through that?
Look, the number one priority for anybody, and as an Australian, really the number one is food and shelter. And we can offer that in terms of shelter, like they're renting a property. So it's really number one, that shelter, to food. We can't do that. Unfortunately, we're not the supermarket, but being able to make sure that they've got that comfort and understanding. So it's really working them through understanding, okay, how much, like what's the rent, what are we doing, what can you afford, and really trying to coordinate that with a landlord and a tenant, and just the risks associated with it, where they could end up in the next few months, and advising. And most people are really understanding and able to move forward and make plans based on the information being given to them.
So you're playing a very active role in that communication between the landlord and the tenant, which of course was requested. It was one of the requests that the Prime Minister made, wasn't it, about that communication?
Yeah, and I think that's like, I know that was definitely the conversation that was had from the Prime Minister, but it was something we were already doing anyway. And I think that was like the important thing, to get on the front foot very early and just really listen to people. Without that understanding, you can't move forward. Yeah.
So what are the concerns you're hearing from landlords?
Most of the time, the concerns that landlords are having is, are their tenants safe? Like, are their tenants okay? What kind of situations are they in? Has been like actually the number one, and which is really sweet to see very early on, even for a landlord to call and say, hey, are my tenants okay? Have they lost their job? Are they in a position? What's going on? So a lot of landlords, were very early to jump on to double checking that, number one, their tenants were okay. And most of them have been very comfortable with being able to either look at rent reductions or deferrals of rent, or offering them some kind of maybe a week's free while they get back onto their feet, or whatever it is. So that's been really lovely. The next one is just making sure that rents are going to get paid if they're going to get paid. And it's just planning again for them. I think if anybody knows the situation, there's open communication, people can just start planning for it.
Yeah, communication is king, isn't it? It's the key to keeping it all together. Just a final question. I know that the property management community is very, very close. You know, you guys talk a lot. What are you hearing from some of your peers, your colleagues, about some of the difficulties they're having? Are you able to help them with any of those? And the reason I ask that is because a number of people watching this are probably struggling with a few things, and I'm sure they'd appreciate your input. What are you hearing from some of your colleagues?
I think it's just the mixed messaging that the people are getting in terms of what they should be doing and how they should be handling the situations with tenants that really can't afford their rent. And it's such a big unknown for a lot of people in the industry, and most of us actually, because we don't know what's going to happen in terms of insurance, what's landlord insurance, what's going to be happening once any kind of eviction ban has been uplifted, what's it going to do for vacancy, what's it going to do for rent. and the prices out there. I think the biggest and the conversations that I'm seeing at the moment is really, number one, we've got to be really empathetic with people, is my biggest number one priority that we've got to have. Sit, listen and understand. We're not going to have all the answers, and don't take it personally if you don't have the answers for it. And it's really like it's a mindset thing that I think is going to be the big thing for us moving forward. So my advice to anybody out there is take the time, listen and talk to people, like call other people in the industry, see what they're doing, how they're adapting. But really at the end of the day, we really are in a little bit of an unknown, and we can just plan as best we can for it, and just talking, parking things where you're not sure and coming back and addressing them. But it's empathy at the end of the day.
Tamsin, how are vacancies and arrears right now?
Vacancies are at a wonderful level for us, and we've seen them actually increase as months and months have gone past anyway. We're still seeing quite a high vacancy, especially in Parramatta. We're a very transitional kind of area, but we're still transacting. We're still seeing a lot of people out there transacting and looking at moving. And I did think the open homes and the changing of that did actually help a little bit more people and a little bit more confidence out there. And arrears have kind of stayed steadied. I think the government assistance, because that has started to kick in, has really helped those people a lot of the times, and that really has been able to cover a bit of their rent payments over the next couple of months. So we're in, again, a really lucky situation where most of the time most tenants have been able to pay the full amount of their rents once the government assistance has been able to kick in for it. So we've stayed steady, but we've still got a small, less than 2%, where they're just really in a situation where they can't pay their rent at all. And that will just continue to keep growing and growing over the next couple of months.
And what about inspections? These are inspections on vacant properties. Are you doing those one-on-one? And also your routines, are you keeping up with those?
Yeah, so we've got a combination of private inspections and open homes. We, in April, did over 700 private inspections to lease properties, and it was just a little bit more extra work. Normally you'd open it maybe 2 or 3 times and lease a property. Instead, we're averaging maybe around 15 privates to lease a property, which was a different kind of time frame. But that serviceability and that extra customer experience, I think for people having that one-on-one was a much better experience for people, like they do in sales, where that's more likely, is something that I think we'll continue to do and adapt to, because it's just a better experience for our tenants, and obviously then opportunity for the landlords to lease their properties. Inspections are still being conducted, not in person. These are being done via photos, and we've been able to use technology to enable us to agilely continue to do those inspections for our landlords and get photos sent through from tenants, give us them to write up their own little comments and send a report back to a landlord, which has been working extremely well for us because they're still seeing the exact same service level.
Yeah, pretty important, isn't it, to keep up with those routines? And I guess that's something that the landlords really need as well. Are your tenants doing videos as well as photos?
We're kind of stuck down the photo realm at the moment. The videos are an interesting one for us, but we went because we'd always done photos, so we've kind of stuck to that. And I don't know, it's a mixed reaction in terms of videos, but our landlords at the moment are really happy just sticking with the same kind of service that they were getting before with the photos, where they can look at it and address each item individually.
Wonderful. Hey, Tamsin, thank you so much for your time. I know it's a busy time for you and the team, but I appreciate you talking to us. I know Rock End do too. They treasure you and your team very, very highly. And as I said, you were the first person we went to in this series last year, and we're delighted to be back with you again this time. Tamsin Wilson from Belle Property in Parramatta. Tamsin, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate it.